Okay, I decided to make this one because I think it's some really solid content. Decoding women's hidden communication signals when dating. Okay, what does that even mean? Okay, when I say decoding women's hidden communication signals when dating, here's what that means. Majority of the time when you're dating women, you'll notice that they communicate covertly, which means that a lot of times she may say one thing, but her mood clearly shows another. Okay, so just let that sink in. She might say one thing, but based on her mood, you can tell that her mood shows another. Okay? So let me give you an example. You notice something's wrong. Okay, so you notice that she seems upset or mad, and you say to her, "What's wrong?" And she goes, "Nothing." Okay, you might notice that she just says nothing, but you can tell based on her mood and based on her tone of voice, something is very wrong, where she feels upset about something. So you need to always monitor her mood. Okay, so anytime that you notice her communication towards you becoming shorter, or let's say like more passive aggressive or moody, okay, or she's giving you the silent treatment or being more silent towards you, okay, especially if you've been dating this woman for, let's say, anywhere from like 4 months to 12 months or longer, you might notice some of these things, okay? You have to be very aware of this, because what has probably happened is you have now most likely moved out of your masculine frame, and she's now losing trust in your masculinity. That is what has now happened. Okay, so based on your actions or based on the way that you're communicating, a lot of times even you're over communicating every little detail about your day. You're no longer a mystery, you're no longer a challenge. She feels like you've been won over. You might notice more disrespectful behavior happening. So you need polarity in relationships, okay, to have the proper dynamic or a good dynamic, so that way she likes being around you. Now, I'm going to give you a strategy here when it comes to handling this situation. So how to handle covert communication patterns so you maintain a good relationship dynamic. Let me explain, okay? By very rarely, if ever, having any serious conversations while you're dating. You keep everything lighthearted and fun and playful. So that also means staying away from topics that can bring unnecessary stress. Let me give you an example. A lot of times when a guy starts dating a woman for quite some time, he starts talking about his work life, his career stress, maybe the problems or challenges at the office every single day. And you'll notice that that stress energy or the things that you're saying, what happens is it starts to change the vibe or the dynamic of the relationship. So all of these types of topics, okay, despite you wanting to talk about them, you'll notice that it will ruin her mood or her vibe, okay, and then all of a sudden she won't like you, and then she'll pull back and oftentimes find somebody else. So with all that said, there's 3 main covert communication signals or patterns that you might notice when you're dating, and I'm going to show you all 3 of them right now. So hidden communication signal number 1 to look out for, okay, would be a tone of disinterest. When you notice that her vocal tone is disinterested, let me give you an example and let me show you what happens. She's upset about something, okay? And then what happens is the more you try to talk to her, the more that she pulls away and likes you less. Okay, so a lot of times here, she's testing to see if she can fully emasculate you, and this will also reveal your interest level. Now the reason being is because oftentimes what happens is the man who tries to now be even nicer towards her when she demonstrates disinterest, okay, maybe he tries to be nicer, okay, or he tries to now communicate even more, or on top of that, he might start to act like he is fearful to lose her in the relationship. He will most likely be left. Okay, so what you have to remember here is, let's say you're trying your absolute best in the relationship, you are there for her and all of those things, and you're just communicating naturally as you would day to day. If you notice that her tone is disinterested, a lot of times you have to show that you still have self-respect to not overinvest. So keep that in mind. That is the first hidden covert communication signal to look out for, would be a tone of disinterest. Now, number 2, Hidden communication signal number 2 to look out for, okay, would be constantly asking questions. Okay, you might notice this. The woman that you're dating, she might start constantly asking questions, wanting to know every little detail about trivial things, okay? And let's say you don't answer all of them, or you realize that she keeps asking all of these questions, even though the information might not necessarily be relevant to anything, and maybe you notice that she was never doing this before. A lot of times, if you choose to not answer them, or you even say something like, why do we have to keep talking about this? What you'll notice is a lot of times she might say, well, are you hiding something? And it's almost like you have to now fall into the communication pattern that she wants, which ultimately will slowly make you emasculated. So keep in mind, the way that you get around this stuff is by not losing your masculine energy to begin with. Okay, so constantly asking questions, wanting to know every little detail about trivial things or topics. So this is a way for her to gain leverage and control over your mind. Okay, keep that in mind. Your mind, she wants to really make sure that she is all you're thinking about. So she gets all of your undivided attention. So the reason why is because every question that you're willing to sit and answer is another answer that you're giving or willing to give her, which means that you are now operating your behavior based on her frame or what you think that she wants. That's what's actually happening right here. So oftentimes men will sit and answer question after question after question about things that they have no interest in discussing. So you have to be very aware of this one, because this right here is another test that you notice that happens when you've been consistently dating a woman. Okay, and this is almost like a slow pattern or a slow pace of emasculation, which ultimately leads to the end of the relationship. Okay, now point number 3, okay, would be being very dismissive of your statements. So basically when you speak, she's going to act like whatever you're saying is not very important. So I'll give you an example. She may act like what you're saying has little importance. She also wants to see if you still have backbone to now leave the relationship, or at minimum just maybe pull away a little bit and stop communicating. She wants to see that you have a life of abundance and you're still able to go and occupy your time doing something else. Women will always test you to see what you'll put up with without leaving. So this is what happens is most men just put up with anything. Most men will tolerate anything, okay, and they won't walk away because their mind is in scarcity. The more you fall into your mindset being in scarcity, thinking that this is the only girlfriend you'll ever be able to get for the rest of your life, she will pick up on that energy and she'll leave you. So keep that in mind. You have to be operating out of a mindset of abundance. So what I can tell you is this. You need to always make sure that you have self-respect. Self-respect is huge, okay? Because your yes means yes, your no means no, and that means if she isn't nice to you, and she's not being nice, she's not being good to you, okay, you're not going to be treated very well, and you notice this, so instantly you stop investing. Where most men pursue more and more and more and more. Okay, so this is how you start to decode some of women's hidden communication signals when dating. At this point in the video, I advise you to take this even a step further. I created an entire community where you can start to learn, understand, and master the language of women. And I give you an exact process that you can now just copy paste into your dating life and start to use. But I also made this so that way you can retain the interest in the relationship, so that way she doesn't desire to pull away or to leave you heartbroken. That is why I created this. Go and check this out after today's video is over. Hit the like button, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.